world is changing. For centuries, the West, led by Europe and later the United States, held sway over global affairs. This dominance, rooted in colonialism and reinforced by economic and military might, is waning. A new world order is taking shape, one where the West is no longer the sole arbiter of power. This shift is not a sudden upheaval but a gradual evolution. It is driven by multiple factors: the rise of new economic giants, the decline of Western credibility, and a growing awareness of the inherent inequalities of the existing order. The old certainties are crumbling. The unipolar moment, heralded after the Cold War, is giving way to a more complex, multipolar reality. This transition is fraught with challenges, but it also presents an opportunity to create a more just and equitable world. To understand the changing global order, we must first delve into the intricate and often painful history that has shaped it. The roots of today's geopolitical landscape are deeply embedded in the era of European colonialism, a period that saw the rise and fall of empires, the redrawing of borders, and the profound transformation of societies across the globe. Confronting the legacy of European colonialism is essential for a comprehensive understanding of our current world. For centuries, European powers carved up the world, often with little regard for the indigenous populations and their cultures. They imposed new political boundaries, introduced foreign governance systems, and exploited local resources to fuel their own economic growth. The exploitation of resources and subjugation of populations were hallmarks of colonial rule. Colonized peoples were often forced into labor, their lands were taken, and their cultures suppressed. This history of domination and exploitation continues to cast a long shadow over international relations, influencing the dynamics between former colonial powers and the countries they once controlled. Institutions like the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, and even NATO, while ostensibly promoting global stability and economic development, have often been perceived as tools of Western influence. These organizations were established in the mid-20th century, a time when Western powers, particularly the United States and its allies, sought to shape the post-war world order in their favor. The creation of these institutions in the aftermath of World War II reflected the power dynamics of the time. The Bretton Woods Conference, for instance, laid the groundwork for the modern global financial system, with the West holding disproportionate influence. This imbalance has led to criticisms that these institutions serve the interests of wealthy nations at the expense of poorer ones. This legacy breeds resentment and distrust among many countries in the global South, which were once subject to colonial rule. These nations are often wary of Western intentions, viewing them through the lens of historical exploitation and domination. The economic policies and political interventions of Western powers are frequently met with skepticism and resistance. This skepticism is understandable, given the historical context. The West's failure to fully acknowledge and atone for its colonial past hinders its ability to forge genuine partnerships in a changing world. Efforts to address historical injustices, such as discussions about colonial reparations and the removal of colonial monuments, are steps in the right direction. However, much more needs to be done to build trust and foster equitable relationships between former colonial powers and the countries they once ruled. Only by confronting and addressing this complex legacy can we hope to create a more just and balanced global order. The West's claim to global leadership has been further eroded by a series of geopolitical missteps. Over the past few decades, the Western model, once hailed as the pinnacle of political and economic success, has faced numerous challenges that have called its efficacy into question. From military interventions to economic policies, the Western approach has often resulted in unintended consequences that have undermined its credibility on the global stage. The wars in Afghanistan and Libya, touted as interventions to spread democracy, ended in chaos and instability. These conflicts, initially justified as necessary actions to dismantle oppressive regimes and promote democratic values, have instead left behind a legacy of destruction and disorder. The power vacuums created by these interventions have been filled by extremist groups, further destabilizing the regions and leading to prolonged suffering for the local populations. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine, while highlighting Russian aggression, has also exposed the limitations of the Western response. Despite imposing sanctions and providing military aid, the West has struggled to present a unified and effective strategy to resolve the crisis. The conflict has not only strained relations between Western countries and Russia, but has also revealed the complexities of international diplomacy in addressing such multifaceted issues. The European Union, once a beacon of unity and prosperity, grapples with internal divisions and economic stagnation. The financial crises of the past decade have exposed the vulnerabilities within the EU's economic framework, leading to widespread discontent among member states. Issues such as unemployment, austerity measures, and the uneven distribution of wealth have fueled skepticism about the EU's ability to deliver on its promises of economic stability and growth. The rise of populism and nationalism across Europe challenges the liberal values that the EU claims to represent. Movements advocating for national sovereignty and anti-immigration policies have gained traction, reflecting a growing disillusionment with the EU's handling of various issues. This shift towards populism has not only threatened the cohesion of the EU, but has also sparked debates about the future of liberal democracy in Europe. The West's handling of global issues like climate change and economic inequality has also been inadequate. Despite numerous international agreements and summits, progress on these fronts has been slow and insufficient. The failure to address these critical issues effectively has led to widespread frustration and has called into question the West's commitment to leading the global fight against these existential threats. The gap between the West's rhetoric and its actions has widened, diminishing its moral authority. While Western leaders often speak about the importance of human rights, democracy, and equality, their actions frequently fall short of these ideals. This hypocrisy has not gone unnoticed and has eroded the trust and respect that the West once commanded on the global stage. These failures have exposed the flaws in the Western model and emboldened those who seek to challenge the existing order. As emerging powers rise and assert their influence, the Western model faces increasing scrutiny and competition. The need for a reassessment of strategies and policies is more pressing than ever if the West hopes to regain its standing and effectively address the complex challenges of the modern world. The decline of Western influence is not only a phenomenon observed from the outside, it is also a growing concern within Western countries themselves. Within Western countries, a growing sense of disillusionment and even anti-West sentiment is taking root, particularly among younger generations. This sentiment is not just a fleeting trend, but a deep-seated feeling that has been building over the years. Many young people feel that the promises of prosperity and stability that were once associated with Western democracies are no longer being fulfilled. Millennials and Gen Z, burdened by economic anxieties and disillusioned by endless wars, are questioning the legitimacy of the US-led global order. They see their futures as uncertain, with rising student debt, unaffordable housing, and precarious job markets. The endless military engagements in foreign lands, which seem to yield little benefit, only add to their frustration. This skepticism extends beyond the United States, finding echoes in intellectual circles in Canada, Australia, and other Western nations. Academics and thought leaders are increasingly vocal about the need to rethink the current global order and address the systemic issues that plague Western societies. This internal dissent stems from various factors, including concerns about social inequality. The gap between the rich and the poor continues to widen, leading to a sense of injustice and disenfranchisement among the lower and middle classes. People are demanding more equitable distribution of wealth and resources. The erosion of democratic norms is another significant factor. Many citizens feel that their voices are not being heard and that democratic processes are being undermined by corporate interests and political corruption. This has led to a loss of faith in traditional political institutions. There is also a perception that Western governments are out of touch with the needs of their citizens. Policies are often seen as favoring the elite, while the average person struggles to make ends meet. This disconnect has fueled a rise in populist movements and calls for more direct forms of democracy. The rise of social media has also played a role, providing platforms for alternative viewpoints and challenging the dominance of traditional media narratives. Social media has democratized information, allowing voices that were previously marginalized to be heard. However, it has also led to the spread of misinformation and increased polarization. This growing internal divide within the West further weakens its ability to present a united front on the global stage. As Western nations grapple with their internal issues, their influence on global affairs diminishes. The world is watching as the West navigates this period of introspection and transformation, uncertain of what the future holds.